Hey everyone, Mr. Phil coming at you with a video on Unit 5, Lesson 7 on 2D array algorithms. So let's get started. Basically, what we're going to do today is go through more ways to traverse through 2D array. Okay, so some objectives, we're going to run this new method called indexOf, and it comes from a string class. So it's already baked into Java, not something you have to make. And then we're going to go ahead and use algorithms essentially to find and modify elements in that 2D array. So get ready, we're going to use enhanced for loops again. Okay, so string, when you use that data type, basically what's happening is when you type in a word in text, it captures it by index numbers. So if you do quotations, Java, exclamation point, the J, A, V, A, exclamation point all have a certain index number, which is kind of cool. And again, what we're going to reference here is this index of method that's in this string class. So it's not something we have to create. It's always there for us to use. You'll see why we'll use it in this lesson, but right now, all it's trying to do is we're going to look at when you use index number, it's going to tell you which index number does that occur in first. Okay. There also I looked it up online too, but there is a way to search for the last instance of that letter or keyword, for example. So that's so that's there. I think instead of index of, it's like last index or something like that, but you can look it up too. Okay, so what does this return? So basically the first thing we got is it says message, we're gonna print message.index of, and there's an O. Where does that happen? Well, going from left to right, that's an index of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So again, this is index of, I might as well just number all these since they never did it. 3, 4. Okay, that's gonna happen there. Now let's look at where does world happen? Well, it should be the fifth one, right? It's at the sixth one. Well, why is that? This space right here actually counts as its own little text, right? So that's a fifth spot, which is blank. And then we keep going on and on and on. So I numbered all of them pretty poorly. But as you can see, where does the instance of world happen? What happens at the starting from index number 6? And then that space, as you saw right there, starts at 5. And then it ends. Okay, let me get rid of my stuff there. Somewhere. Okay, so this is kind of some stuff that I added just based on going through the coding, where I was like, what is this doing? And then had to look at it. Just go $1 swing it. But again, index of method is baked into Java. Basically, you can do it to use it to check for the type letter phrase in the text. So there's a good one about plagiarism. There's a good one about like reading email text and things like that. So those are all really helpful to use in index of. Specifically, we're going to look at not necessarily the number of times. Well, you can rig it to show you the number of times the target appears. So in this other slide I showed you, this one shows you when is the first occurrence of it. But you'll see that in code.org, the modules will do, we can rig it to actually tell you how many times the occurrence has happened, which is kind of cool. The main thing I wanted to note, because you'll see in some if statements coming up in the code, is when there's nothing there. So let's say for hello world, I did index of P, right? There's no letter P there. The return would be a -1. And I had to look that up just because code.org and the teachers don't know, just use an if statement, I'll show you. Preparing for the events that it does return -1. So again, that means there's nothing there. Okay, so then a couple other tips I got for you. One of the things that comes up a lot, and I always struggle with this, I'm like, when do we use a regular for loop and when do we use an enhanced for loop? The pattern I'm seeing with regular for loops is that we're going to go through each element in the array. We don't do any modifications to the original array, but maybe we're adding or taking an average of something, right? So we did that a lot with total plus equals, and then went through each of the, we needed to use the index, so to basically traverse through the elements and add them up and have a running total. Enhanced for loops, as far as I can gather, is we're going to make modifications to the existing array. And because we want to do that, we have to make a copy. And so to make a copy of the array, or in some cases use it as a variable, we can use this to check for duplicates, like we did a long time ago in Unit 3, or using this indexOf method. Now I'm kind of talking a lot about these for loops, and let me show you again what they look like. Okay, so this is just a screenshot of what one of the things modules did. And the main thing I want you to point out, and I'll go ahead and annotate with, which I lost. is right here. So there's this is the enhanced for loop, right? So again, we have string, some sort of a 1D array for week, and then it's going to copy over customer emails into that week. And then for the second line, we use enhanced for loop again because each element of the week is going to be copied over to each. And that allows me to then run a regular for loop, which is even crazier right here, right? Where it's going to check for if this index of keywords, and it uses index again. So as far as I can tell, we're not modifying this. We're just trying to find out, hey, we're going to use the index number to traverse through each index, right? Each element one by one, and to check and see if it's not equal to -1, then return email. So this is where that -1 pops up. So if index of returns a -1, that means that keyword does not exist. Okay, but if it does not equal -1, then it's going to return something. Otherwise, no email contains specified keywords. So that'll come up in module 6 or 7. But there's what that looks like. So we're actually going to use both together, which I find kind of interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to stop this and then to the other thing. All right, so now let's look at the coding. So basically, you'll see, I'm not going to go through each one of these modules because you can predict and run on your own. So I'm going to hop over to module 3 to show you some of the code. This one was a little bit confusing to me. I'll explain to you what's happening before I just jump right in. Okay, so basically what's happening here is we want to look at, well, let's see what we have. We have a 2D array called sentences. And it comes quick brown fox, jumps over the lazy dog, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so essentially it looks like a 3x3. How do I know it's a 3x3? Well, because each of these text phrases ended in quotations is separated by a comma, right? And so there's 3 elements there, 3 elements on the second row, and 3 elements on the third row. And it's going to print out something with fox. You'll notice in the first 2 modules, they're basically saying, hey, look at, well, let me show you what it's doing. So what it's going to do is going to pop still how many times the word fox comes up in each of the rows. And you'll notice when it actually conveniently highlights fox in the text, which is hard to see, it actually highlights it in the actual array as well. So I can see where it pops up, 2, 1, 2. Now let's take a look at the code. You'll notice that it's right now, this is for right up top, how many phrases there are. It's the count phrases method that they want you to look at. It's going to go ahead and count how many times that keyword that I get to input pops up. Okay, so take a look real quick. You know, we got use the comments. Phrase marker to call it. It's called count phrases. It's going to take in as a parameter a 2D array for sentences, which I obviously saw right here, right? And then it's also going to take in a target phrase that I'm looking for. In the tester class, you'll see a box. Okay, so some code that I might pay attention to is the string result with quotations. I struggle with these. It looks like we're doing a regular for loop to kick things off, and it's going to look at the phrase count. And you'll notice that they're using a regular for loop, and they're going to start this phrase count equals 0. So it's going to count how many times does the word fox come up. Okay, and it's obviously going to produce some sort of result at the end. It's really important that you pay attention to this kind of code. It's going to come up a few more times in different ways, which makes it tricky in the other modules. Okay, so basically we're starting with the row, and we're going to the outer loop to take a look at what row are we looking at. The inner loop, as you've seen before, takes a look at each of the column, or starts with the column, right? And then looks for those occurrences of fox. You'll notice that it's saying, hey, int location, right? So it's looking at the location of where this thing pops up, and it's using the index of the target phrase. So it's saying, where does this thing pop up in the target phrase? Or sorry, where does this thing pop up in the array? Well, if it exists, then you're going to get a situation where the location is not equal to 1. So it'll be 5 or 10. So for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So fox comes up like in the 13th index there, right? For the first time. So it's going to go ahead and mark, so int location in this case would be equal to 13, which is great. Then you need to run the if statement, which is saying, hey, location, that's not equal to -1. Therefore, we're going to add 1 to this phrase count, or phrase count, sorry. And then it's going to run it again, right? It's going to keep going in that array, and it's going to find fox somewhere else, and it's going to go ahead and add another 1 to the phrase count. Okay, so to take care of this one, because I want to make sure I show you this, they basically want you to switch the rows and columns. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type it right in here, and I'll comment on this just so you can see the difference. So instead of having they're going to start with columns, right? They like to use COL, so I'll use that as well for column. Personally, I prefer the column index, but so be it. And remember, we're going to start with column is less than sentences, and you have to do this bracket 0.length to remind the program that, hey, we're going to look at the columns first. If you miss the brackets with the 0, then you'll have an error. Okay, so then what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy over the phrase. So basically, I'm switching the order here. Okay. So that's the beginning of the for loop, and then I have the inner loop, which I'm going to go ahead and I'll comment these out as I go along. And that inner loop is going to be where we now use the row equals 0. That row less than sentences, that's the name of the array there. Row plus plus. And then we want to do the if. So now I'm just going to copy all of this stuff in. The string, blah, 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 and location. So I just want to switch the order and be careful about it. And then we can go ahead and comment all these out. Because we don't need them anymore. Okay, so let me see, just check what we did. So we had int phrase count equals 0. We're doing the rows, string current phrase, sentences row column, int location, current phrase. Cool. And then if location does not equal -1, then phrase count plus plus. And for the result, we want to do column, right? And instead of row, we're going to look at COL, and then we're going to do phrase count. Let's go and run it to make sure we're running error-free. It looks like I made some errors. What's the matter? Did I miss? I'm probably missing a bracket. Let's see. Phrase finder, count phrases. Let me debug real quick. So we ended the if, that. Looks like I never ended the first for loop there. And then return result, that ends. I think that's what it is. There's this weird like stuff. Let me just clean that up. Looks like I'm missing a curly brace or something. Let me see what's going on here. Oh, here's the other problem. It's a random return result. Sorry about this. Let me just try and take care of it. Well, it looks like I'm missing a curly brace somewhere. What did I mess up? Okay, so now it's not happy with the column plus column stuff. So column number, column, phrase count, times, return result. Okay. Looks like I might be missing a curly brace here. I think that's an extra one. And this should work now. There it goes. Okay, so now I switch it to column number. Then so I just want to make sure you're careful on how you switch the order. Just don't forget to switch the bottom line as a result to the color or to the column. Sorry. And let me show you one more here, a couple more, I should say. I'll show you a module on skill building. Let's do product reviews. So I'll show you two of these just to kind of get you going. Because it's not easy. So here, once again, which might bring back some PTSD, we have not one, not two, but three text files. And these have, email messages in them. We have a review.java, and basically what that's doing is going to look at the customer reviews. Sorry, not emails. I'm talking about customer reviews, right? So in 3 weeks' time, what do people give as a review, right? Line 4 says disappointed, doesn't work as advertised. So we basically want to go through the product reviews and just find certain keywords. Just looking at the tester class, they basically want you to look at just product reviews, I guess. Is there anything we're looking for in particular? No. I think they want us to, they want us to look at, come up with a keyword to look at. So let's go ahead and write that in. So we're going to call this count times method. And it's going to take in parameter something, right? So just looked at these. The first time I looked for the word great. Does anyone see the word great? Right? Or maybe I see perfect there. So maybe I want to see how many times the word perfect comes up. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it now. But nothing's gonna happen yet. So let's go there. So count times. You might be wondering where's the review. So we create a review object because that's what I'm going to use to call the count times method. The parameter, because I've already done this, is down here. So it's looking for the target word. It's a string, so that's why I'm giving it a text, quotations. Okay, so now we can go here. And unfortunately, it's completely blank. So we get to do a lot of the coding. Remember the for loop that we used before? Well, because code.org is awesome, we're not using that. We're using a different variation. So in this case, when you're trying to find keywords within arrays, you should be using enhanced for loop. So in this case, I'm going to try and count the number of times that we're going to see these words pop up. And I can see in the class, or sorry, in the method, that it's an int data type. So if I'm counting and I'm using int data type, let's go ahead and return some sort of count, right? So that's what I'm thinking. There's some sort of like count return. Let's go ahead and initialize that equal to 0. Okay. So declare and initialize type my counter. Now what I need to do is go ahead and build that for loop. And so basically what's happening with the for loop is it's gonna, remember, there's a couple things happening here, which is quite a lot to look at. We have 1D arrays, they're all strings. It's gonna take in each of the text files here, and it's gonna go ahead and load them into these individual arrays. And then we have a 2D array here where they stick all the product reviews together into one array. So the product reviews is a 2D array of all these 1D arrays. Okay. Now you might be wondering, Studdard, how does this, like I see 3 items here, how does that turn into a 2D array? Well, remember, like if you look at week 1 reviews, it's got these 5 things in there, right? And then remember, it's all text. So each one of these has an index number associated with it. And then same thing with week 2 reviews and week 3 reviews. So it's much bigger than just one row, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's really it's 3 columns and 5 rows, 5 rows, 5 rows. So, okay. So let's get back to you. So we're going to use enhanced for loop. Why? Because we're going to need to look at each of those reviews. We're going to need to, we don't want to write over it, right? Because it's an existing array, but I want to use an enhanced for loop that's going to allow me to look at each one of these elements and check. So we're going to go ahead and use, these are 1D arrays, right? These are 1D arrays for each of the reviews. So let's go ahead and use a 1D array here, and I'll call it review dump, right? That's when we're going to dump these. And we're going to put in the product review. This is the name of the array. Yeah, so basically we're going to copy these over. Okay. So now I'm basically making the program look through each of these arrays. So week 1, week 2, week 3, right? All those reviews. I'm going to go ahead and copy those over to review dump. That's what I call it. Maybe I should just call it review copy, so it's not misleading. Okay. And then, so now I have the array captured, but now I need to actually force it to look at each one of these elements. So I'm going to whip out a string again, because they're all text types, right? And I'm going to look at, say, word that I'm looking for in the review. Now you might be wondering, okay, this is kind of crazy. What are we doing here? So if you look at the text files, for example, this is in a 1D array, right? What am I talking about? It's right here. I see a 1D array called week 1 reviews. It's going to take week 1 text files. Okay. So in other words, element number 1 would have love it, so easy to use. Oh, I'm sorry, element number 0, my bad, would have love it, so easy to use. Element 1 would have meh, it's okay. Those kinds of things. Okay, so then if I go back to here, I'm basically trying to take every one of those elements. And I'm going to go ahead and, so this allows me to copy over the array. This allows me to look at each one of these reviews, right, in there. Oh, sorry, it's not review, it's review copy. Okay, so each one of these elements and copy it over to here. All right. And then now we need to use that if statement. This is where the first module comes into play. If we have this case where C has the word, so if that word dot index of contains that target word, right? Because we're looking at the parameters of target word like great, perfect, or whatever. Then, or if this does not equal -1, okay, then we'll have a line going here. Then I want something to happen. So again, index of, when it returns -1, that means that word or thing does not exist anywhere. Okay. But if it does exist, then go ahead and take my counter and add one to it. So that's going to come out. And then we want to return the counter. That's it. And if it is, if for some reason that target word's not there, then nothing's going to happen. Let's go and run it to make sure I don't have any errors. And there's no errors, which is good. So right now I see the number is 0. Let's go ahead and look and see what happened. So there's no word perfect. What about great? I thought I saw the word great somewhere, or perfect. Okay, so it happens once. So that's kind of cool. Let me see. Let me just check one more time. Actually, this works. Highly recommend. Doesn't work. I'm just trying to see if there are any words that happen multiple times. I see great right there. There's one instance of it. Is there any other greats? Perfect. Perfect actually happens once, but I think this is a capital P. It must be case sensitive. When I ran perfect, nothing came up. There's a check. What if I do a capital P? The case sensitive? There it is. Yes, it is case sensitive. But okay, so there's one instance of it. Let me show you one more module where there's a different way we use the for loops. I think it was plagiarism checker. Right, so you guys are familiar with turnitin.com and all that. But so this might be some of the code they're honestly using in a very watered down way. So we'll do the same thing here. Actually, let me just see. I feel like I'm missing one more. But it's fine. Let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so we're going to call the find phrases method and print the results. That's what we're going to do, but we need to actually build the find phrases. So we're going to go through the text and see, are there anything containing those target phrases, right? If there are, then maybe we're suspicious of plagiarism. So kind of similar to the last one, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and count the number of times it pops up, right? Or excuse me, I'm sorry, we're not even counting. We just want to know what is the actual phrase. Okay, so again, reading the instructions, use the SA to toString method to return the 1D array containing the student SA as a string. Okay, so if we find any of the target phrases, show me where it happens, is what we're trying to do. So in this case, I see that it is a string method, right? String data type for the method. It's going to take in some array of target phrases. Does it have it pre-populated? It does. You'll notice it takes all of these essays that students wrote, and it's going to go ahead and compile them into a 2D array. So that's no surprise. Creates an object because it's not a static method. We're going to contain that 2D array. And then look at this. We have a string of a 1D array that's already set up to be popular, learn new things, benefits. I guess that's what they're looking for as our target phrases. So if you have those, maybe you're worried about plagiarism happening. So let's actually code with that in mind. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm receiving an array for target phrases, right? And I have this 2D array called student essays as thing. So what we want to do is we want to make a copy for those student essays. Yes, we have first essay, second essay, right? We want to make a copy of that, and I'm going to do the for loop again. So for string bracket essay. So I'm just copying over the student essays. Okay. And then we want to make, so basically we made the 1D array. And in that 1D array, I need to go ahead and pull in each of those phrases that I'm looking for. Right. So I'm taking each of those elements, the target phrases, and we'll go ahead and copy them over to the copy phrase. And then I'm going to run that same not irregular loop because I want to go through each index one by one, or each element. And I want to know, hey, as long as this thing runs, can you count me the number of times and we get to see those target phrases? So here's the fun part. So we have 1, 2, 3 nested for loops, which is crazy, right? So now we're going to go ahead and do the if statement. So you're going to use this statement a lot. So in this case, if that copy phrase, right, that new variable I just made, and I'm going to go ahead and call this indexOf method. And remember, we're using the target phrases, this guy, as the 1D array. So I need to look at each element in there. So I'm going to use target phrases drop it index. Okay, so that's going to give me something that's not equal to a -1. So it means that target phrase does exist. Then I want you to go ahead and return the there's another toString made here. This is gonna print the results of the actual essay. So we actually need to use that. Okay, and we're gonna store that array in there to show. You might be wondering, how did you know to put something in the parentheses? Well, it's because look, it's looking for an essay as the parameter. So I need to go ahead and show that again for it to work. And then we're going to go ahead and return. So if this is not the case, then I'm going to return no plagiarism here, right? That's a good thing. Let's go and run and see if there's any issues. And I see that there's no issues in the console, which is great news. Now let's go ahead and do the call the method. So I'm going to use system out.println, and we're going to go ahead and Smith dot find phrases, and let's go ahead and take in the phrases to find as my parameter or argument. And there you go. So this was telling me all the cases where popular, learn new things, and benefits pop up. There's benefits, right? Where's popular? Oh, I'm guessing you can also feature vocabulary. So this is the actual essay that includes the word benefits. So it's coming from one of these word benefits. Here we go. This is taking that one in. So whoever first essay is, that's what's going to show. And you just test it to make sure it's good. And we'll call it a day here so you can work on it.